Billions of dollars have been sent to fight a war, regarded by many as a bigger battle for freedom and democracy. But where has all the money gone? Some say it's been swallowed by the military-industrial complex. Others claim even more has simply vanished. One senator, Mike Lee of Utah, says enough is enough. Tonight, Eric Bolling sits down with Senator Lee. His vision, his warning, and why he believes lives can be saved if we just stop funding the war in Ukraine.
And now let's bring in Senator Mike Lee, the great senator from Utah, Republican, also a friend of mine. I would like to point that out. Senator, really good to have you on this very important week. President Trump has sent Steve Witkoff over to Moscow to meet with Putin, and all indications are that things are looking good. Before I get you to weigh in, let's take a listen to what Putin had said post-meeting with Steve Witkoff, representative of Donald Trump and the American people. Listen.
We agree with the propositions to stop hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that such ceasefire should be such that would lead to a permanent peace.
And obviously, Senator, as we know, it takes a long time to figure out if these things hold, if they'll last, and whatnot. But can you give us a sense if you think this one is for real, if Trump has really negotiated a ceasefire in a 3-year-old war?
First of all, this is the most positive, favorable step we've seen in this conflict, basically ever. You know, after President Trump and Vice President Vance sent Mr. Zelenskyy packing from the White House to fix his attitude, it seems that he's ready to come back to work for a negotiated peace, and that's a really good thing. So in response, the United States has resumed military aid and intelligence sharing after Ukraine agreed to Trump's proposed 30-day ceasefire under strict oversight. Now, I'm on the record. I want to cut off all aid to Ukraine and stop the war. But this carrot and stick approach with Zelenskyy seems to be leading to peace talks, and that's a very good development. Trump's, of course, threatened sanctions and tariffs on Russia to push for a ceasefire. And meanwhile, a critical minerals deal with Ukraine is back on the table. Our envoy, Steve Witkoff, is expected to travel to Moscow to help negotiate with Russian leadership. And Putin has said that he's in favor of a ceasefire, although he's hinted that he wants concessions and terms that lead to a longer peace. We'll see pretty soon, I think, what can be done to make him play ball and what can't be done. But obviously, the success of this 30-day ceasefire in and of itself is a great thing, and it hinges ultimately on Russia's acceptance and its compliance with the terms, along with potential extensions or escalations, depending on Moscow's response and, of course, developments on the battlefield.
So, Senator, what do you think? What do you think this minerals deal, the rare earth and minerals deal, will entail? You know, I'm still trying to figure that out, piece it out. It looks like to me it was some sort of payback over the next 10, 20, 100 years. I have no idea how long. And is it worth it? I mean, I guess we can stop spending money in Ukraine, it's worth it. But you and I have been on the same page. We should have stopped spending money in Ukraine $180 billion ago or so, right?
Exactly, 100%. But I also agree that this war does need to stop. And if this minerals deal, the details of which we know very little about, if this can get us to a point of peace, it'll be a great thing. And I would add here, Eric, this is the kind of thing that should have been happening from the beginning. From the very beginning of the war, certainly from the very beginning of U.S. assistance, we should have been moving forward. President Biden should have been pushing an agenda of peace. Hats off to Trump for doing that.
What do you think, Senator? What do you think? Should Zelenskyy be removed? You know, clearly, legally and honestly and democratically. What are your thoughts about getting rid? Should the Ukrainian people remove Zelenskyy? Has he done them any favors at all as president?
Well, look, I normally don't comment on another country's internal elected politics. It's not really our place as Americans to tell them who to elect and who not to elect. But I will say I was dumbfounded, absolutely dumbfounded by a number of things that Mr. Zelenskyy has done. In particular, most recently, that meeting in the Oval Office with President Trump and Vice President Vance. It was as though he could not have managed that any worse. I would imagine that that is not going over all that well within Ukraine among the voting population there. But like I say, as an outsider, I don't know that I know enough about the internal politics to know how that'll play.
I wonder, know this, and we may never know this, but I wonder if it's part of the negotiation with Putin, is that some sort of promise or a wink, wink, and a nod that we would never allow Ukraine into NATO. What are your thoughts on that?
Ukraine doesn't have almost any of the hallmark characteristics. It lacks many of the prerequisites that someone ought to have in order to be able to get into NATO in the first place. That's why among those who have been suggesting, particularly during this war, that we should add Ukraine to NATO or just deem it to be part of NATO, treat it as if it were already a part of NATO, is crazy. This is a nation at war. This is a nation that has not had a significant amount of political stability or national security stability over the years. And so adding it, particularly at a time when it's actively at war with Russia, it's like trying to ensure a house that's already on fire. You don't do that.
Yeah. Very quickly, about a minute or so, Trump says $300 billion the American people have sent to Ukraine. Congress says $180 billion. Doesn't matter what the number is. Zelenskyy says he only knows about 75 billion of it. What are your thoughts on that before we go?
There are a lot of tricky accounting tools that are used in Washington, sometimes deliberately to deceive the public. Other times they're just tricky because the nature of the U.S. government is tricky. It's complex. It's enormous. I suspect that they're all talking about slightly different numbers. Not all of the aid that's been sent by the United States to Ukraine has come there directly. Much of it has gone indirectly. Perhaps Mr. Zelenskyy is just using a different accounting method than we are. The fact is, it has cost Americans hundreds of billions of dollars. This is not our war. It was not our war. At the very beginning, I thought it might be worth sending an aid package at the very beginning in there to try to deter Russia. But as this war has progressed and as the aid packages have continued and gotten larger and larger, I've become increasingly critical of them. In part because at no time did we ever identify reasons why this is our war. At no time were we identifying how it was we were going to bring about peace. President Trump is bringing an end to that unfortunate era and hopefully bringing peace to that region.
All right, we're going to leave right there. Senator Mike Lee, great state of Utah, Republican, friend of mine, for bowling and also for 69 minutes. Appreciate your time, Senator. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Elon Musk did things right. Shocker, I know, right? When he bought X, or Twitter at the time, he got rid of the third-party fact checkers and whoever at Twitter headquarters was making the fact checks and striking people's accounts because he knew it was BS. Now that Trump got reelected and everyone sees where politics is going in this country, Mark Zuckerberg is pretending to be doing the same thing, but he's not. Years ago, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, I had tweeted out that she could have casually retired at 80 and Barack Obama could have replaced her with an ultra-liberal. That was fact-checked by USA Today in like a 1,000-word piece with some sort of law professor weighing in that it could have been replaced. She could have been replaced with a conservative. Yeah, so everyone who screenshot my tweet about that and posted it on Meta and Facebook still has a strike on their account for fact-checking and posting false information. That is across the board what has happened there. Things need to change. Zuckerberg isn't changing them. He's just putting on a show to hopefully win back support from conservatives. That's not real. Real action is cleaning the slate of all those accounts. This is Tim Young. That's my 69 seconds for 69 minutes.